Okay, so this is part two of the one I'm doing about this PSYOP that controls people. It comes in, unfortunately, it comes in all the Patriot channels as well. So it's infiltrated everywhere. So last time I focused on reward as being the wonderful mind control trick and how she tries to get you to believe the government's a wonderful thing when they use reward because that's how we prosper. Uh, that was really well done. If you're asleep, you wouldn't see that. Now we're going to look at other aspects that she mentions here that I didn't cover in the last one because obviously I didn't want to make it too long, and I'm starting to make ones that are longer than I like. So I'm going to be stopping it throughout the video and picking up on certain points. So here we go.
Let me tell you a scary story. An economics professor at a local college made a statement that she had never failed a single student before, but had recently failed an entire class. The class had insisted that socialism worked, that no one would be poor and no one would be rich, a great equalizer. The professor then said, okay, we will have an experiment in this class. All grades will be averaged and everyone will receive the same grade.
So right there, she's saying no one will fail, yada, yada, right? So now she's drawing a parallel between a system where there's equal distribution of resources so people can live a similar quality of life. She's making that connection with how you grade someone's capacity to repeat what they've been taught. Like they're the same thing for some reason, right? There's your first one that she does, right? She just drops that one. If you're not paying attention, you're going to think, oh, yeah, this is what happens. People don't understand how connections are made and how associations are made that have got nothing to do with each other because people don't investigate through depth of the specifics of how one way to live your life is separate to how to grade people. They're two separate things. Living in a system where we all care about the quality of each other's lives, that's got nothing to do with how we grade, how we know how to repeat what we're shown, right? If we lived in a system where there was that, where we cared about the quality of each other's lives, we would not have some standardized education. That's the first one right there. So this is the part that just doesn't get looked at because people just look at the lives they've lived and they believe that's the only way that you can live it, the way it's being delivered. So then they make assessments based on what they know, not actually thinking past, well, maybe this is a manufactured construct. People don't do that, and that's how they get hooked. Right, so let's listen to more of it.
No one will fail, but no one will receive an A either. After the first test, the grades were averaged and everyone got a B.
So now she's saying that if you get an A, right, that's the highest aspiration, to have some assessment made on your capacity to repeat what you've been told, and that now you have some kind of value and you're of higher value and worth. These attachments, right, this is all those little subtle tricks of the mind, and this is all that reward system as well. It's another way that reward system comes out by categorizing you as above others, so that's still that ladder of superiority that's being reinforced here. Right? That's what's really being taught. This is what's really being pushed here as being something of value. That if you can be categorized and can be above others, that you matter more. These are the messages, right? That's what's being sold here.
The students who studied hard were upset, and the students who studied little were happy. As the second test rolled round.
So already there's the divide and conquer right there, like the ones who studied hard, they were happy. The ones who didn't, they were like ecstatic. So the ones who studied hard were not happy, should I say. The ones who didn't, like that's already a fragmentation, right? That's showing favoritism there. She's putting up all these things where your emotional triggers are going to start firing off, right? Very cleverly controlling how you react, right? Because you get that idea that someone believes they're better than someone else, that they don't need to put in as much work. That's going to be tripping up your needs for fairness, right? That's how this has worked. It's structured very cleverly. So it's about paying attention to how it's done, guys.
The students who studied little studied even less. And the ones who studied hard decided they wanted a free ride too, so they studied little.
So see how she puts it? Like this is now a free ride. If you don't study what you're supposed to regurgitate, which now means that you are something of value if you're good at regurgitating what someone else wants you to know. But it doesn't phrase it like that. And so this is like, no, this is a critical knowledge. If you want to, do well in life, you have to be able to get A's and B's and etc. Right? That's how you're valued. That's how you show your worth. So it's channeling your needs right into a very narrow structure. That's all that's being taught. This is how the programming works, guys. Very, very cleverly done.
The second average test result was a D. No one was happy. When the third test rolled round, the average was an F. As the test proceeded, the scores never improved, as bickering, name-calling and blame all resulted in hard feelings.
So it doesn't really make sense, right? If no one's going to fail, or it's going to fail everyone, or whatever, I'm still not getting how this is all put together. It doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know if other people can, but I'm not really making sense of this. If people weren't really caring about studying or whatever, and what was the beginning of the premise of it? You know what I mean? Like that, we're all going to be equals and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, the whole idea that you can be exactly the same as someone else, like, why would you even want that? Then there's no point in being different. So the things that someone can learn quickly and someone else takes more work out, it actually gives you, the one who's faster at learning something, it can actually give you some purpose to actually help those, if they're interested in wanting to understand what you understand, right? You can get some purpose out of that. Imagine if the students actually taught each other what they worked out for themselves. Because when peers teach other peers, it goes better than if it's someone of a perceived authority position. There's well documented evidence of all of that. So, these models aren't getting put forward, but that was what you'd probably call socialism too, right? What they do is they put these labels on things, and as soon as you put a label on it, right, it restricts your understanding of its true value. And this has been done for centuries, right? Just chucking labels that actually have stigma to it, that imply some kind of defectiveness, that it's something sinister, all this stuff, just collapses your consciousness. And the way it's done, it's just so insidiously done that very few people actually sit there paying attention to what's actually happening in the moment, because their heads are so clouded with all these structures, that are there teaching them how to think already. And, they're just being funneled into this very narrow pathway even more. So, we don't look at schooling models where the students are their own teachers, right? Because we all have an inner teacher and an inner educator in us. All it requires is the right stimulus, someone to cultivate the garden so those seeds that are already planted in us can actually flourish. We don't have systems like that, and why is it the government's job to actually teach your child? Like, that's the next question, right? Is that taking responsibility for your own development? What kind of system wants you to believe that that's the only way forward? These are the questions that don't get asked in this kind of stuff. At the end, you'll see what she says, like about reward. So let's listen on.
And no one would study for the benefit of anyone else. To their great surprise, all failed.
So if you think your studying is to the benefit of someone else, as opposed to your own inner desire to understand your environment better so you can enjoy it, like, they're two different places to come from. That natural inquiring mind that we all come stamped with, because otherwise we never ask why as children. That's all children ask is why, right? So you're naturally just going to learn. It's just about how you go about it, how it's presented for you. Is it in alignment with the thing that's going to stimulate you to want to go and do some investigation? That doesn't get looked at all. That's the real tragic part here. And so it's always in this very narrow framing, just like this video is very narrowly framed.
And the professor told them that socialism would ultimately fail, because when the reward is great, the effort to succeed is great. But when the government takes away all the reward, no one will try or want to succeed. And that is socialism, my friends, a race to the bottom.
So what does succeed mean, right? Does it mean being a very good slave and regurgitating what you've been told? So she doesn't actually define what she means by succeed. But from what I can see here, succeed is if you can be a very good robot and spit out what you're shown, it's going to get you a good job, up in the rung to plug in to the matrix where you're going to do your bit. That's what success is, right? So this is what's all being promoted here. This is the whole entire education system, is to teach obedience and compliance through reward. Because she says it again, right? The whole, you pull out the reward, you've got no incentive. People are naturally incentivized as who they are because they're just naturally curious. But what she's shaping is, no, if you don't have that external incentive, you won't get the best out of people. This is the real brilliant programming here, guys. So until you start looking into it to that depth, you're going to get trapped every time. You're going to fall for it, and you're not going to have your own control over your own thoughts. So hopefully this is going to help a few people see something they weren't able to see before.